How's it going, guys?
Great.
Okay, so tell us about the silence in between and how COVID helped to create this album.
Okay. It was written during the pandemic, obviously, and we were right as we were setting up our studio in LA to make the record. The whole world was shutting down, and I think that it was the first time since we were teenagers, really, that we were just alone in a room with no real contact with the outside world making music. So it was a very
Mm,
humbling experience, and that sort of was that experience of being shut away and not usually when we make records, since we've started, we've been out touring, doing some shows even while we make the record. So we kind of always have that reference point, and we didn't have that this time. So it made it so that we were very honest and sort of humbled in the experience of making it. So I think that helped us be very honest, and it's one of our most honest records. Um, and I also think that because that identity, we didn't know if the whole world was shutting down, and we didn't know if we were going to have a career anymore, or if we were going to be able to tour again, or when we were going to be able to tour, and
mm,
when we came back, if anybody was going to remember us or care anymore. So there was a lot of insecurity um, in that for us, and sort of that insecurity and that uncertainty about the future was processed through the writing of the album. So that's why a lot of the themes are kind of like, when we realize that when everything is stripped away from us, like music is our life raft, and it's kind of how we process the world and understand things. So there's a lot of hope for the future and time to look back through the past and rethink things we've done in the past and where that's led us to and all that stuff. So it was a little bit daunting and scary, as it was for everybody during the pandemic, but
mm.
it definitely helped us to write a very introspective and honest album, which came out as The Sounds in Between.
And how vulnerable do you feel with this album?
I think with every record you put out, you feel vulnerable, because what you're doing is you're pouring sort of your heart and soul and all of your emotions, and you work on it for so long. And I think you're being honest about yourself, but also you're sharing something that you've created with the world, and that always feels like you're vulnerable. I feel like if you don't feel vulnerable, and if you don't feel like, oh, I wonder how people are going to feel like this, or I wonder if people are going to connect and understand what we're saying, then
Mm.
you probably haven't pushed yourself to make something meaningful. Being vulnerable while you're writing it and also when releasing it, I think that's an important part of the process.
Was it difficult to be at this point where you can open your heart to emotions? Oh,
Um, I think that we've both always been, I mean, being a musician, you kind of have to be that way. So I think, like the stereotype is of the melodramatic musician who's like always making a big deal, or artist who's always making a big deal out of everything. And I think that is because when to be driven to make music and share your feelings, you're probably I've always thought that you're probably dosed with a fairly large amount of them anyways.
mm,
Uh, so I think that it's sort of been natural, and I think that the desire to share and explore our feelings through music um, is a sort of natural urge, and so we come to it easily and naturally. And I think the hardest part is just not overthinking it once you're doing it, and to try and be as honest as possible. Um, I think that when the impulse to write comes, or when you have an idea, it's a very innocent and honest thing. And then the hardest part is just not to get in the way and not to try and like control that too much and overthink it and like stifle that original feeling. I mean, the hard part is receiving feedback, and we've definitely gotten better at that. I think the more you do anything, you get more confidence. So I think that we've had the experience of putting out records, and for most of our life, our experience was of putting out records and having nobody really like them, and then
mhm.
suddenly we put out a record and people started liking it, and then we put out more records and people really started liking them. And then, we've also had the experience of letting people down with their expectations. Like, once you have fans, they want something, and then maybe what you made wasn't exactly what they wanted, but some other people liked it. So, I mean, we've just gotten better at listening to the constructive feedback and tuning out the rest and just doing what we do and trying to be honest the whole way through.
And well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that for this album, you wrote about 50 or 60 songs. How do you select just 10?
I mean, it's also, when you're talking about how many songs you write for a record, it's hard to say when the writing process starts and when it stops. Because, for example, like Love Brand New, we had kicking around for almost 2 years, and we didn't finish it until this album. So it was like, and this happens with every record or every EP or whatever we've done. We usually have stuff that sometimes sits around for a long time and maybe doesn't make the previous album, but after some time and space, you start to see it in a different way. So it's hard. I mean, when you're making a record, you start to write songs that sort of feel like tent poles of what the record is about. And sometimes some of the songs you've written during that process might be good, but they don't really fit with the vision of the whole record, being cohesive and feeling like a statement. And so it's not only about writing great songs for a record, but you're also trying to service this larger piece of art. And once you start finding the songs that for sure are going to be on the record, sort of filling the gaps becomes a really fun part of the process, because we come from DJ and dance culture, which telling a story with music, having dynamics, that's really important to us. And so oftentimes we'll pull inspiration from, dance music culture, and write songs or decide to pick songs based on what the flow of the record feels like.
And what can we expect this Saturday at Tequila, Takamba? Have you been here? Is your first time? Yeah.
Have we been to Tequila before, Jimmy? I don't think so.
I don't think we've been there specifically. It's correct me if I'm wrong, please. I don't want, my geography is not the best at times. It's in Jalisco, right?
Yeah, it's close to Guadalajara. It's like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's,
and this is the region where all the agave plants and everything are.
Yeah, that's correct. So what are your expectations, and what can we expect as audience this Saturday?
Well, I think we expect some very delicious tequila. But beyond that, we're doing a club set, so it's going to be kind of like live vocals and guitar with a DJ set. We DJ back to back, and we play mainly our songs, but we can also mix in other records that we feel fit the moment. And so it's a little bit more spontaneous, because with a band show, we kind of like we plan the set list ahead of time, and we kind of know we're a bit more stuck with what we're going to do. But with the club set, we can be a bit more free, and depending upon the vibe of the venue and the crowd, we can kind of feel the energy and plan accordingly. So it's a little bit spontaneous in that sense, but the basic format is going to be just live vocals and guitar, playing mainly our songs and kind of fitting the moment. And we play some of our remixes, and it's a little bit more clubby based, so it's a bit more of a party,
Yep.
And it's going to be really fun. We have a remix album coming out.
When?
I think it's this Friday, and so we're going to play some of those versions, some of the remix versions this weekend. So that should be cool, and it's a nice way to kind of keep things fresh and switch it up and reimagine songs. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And well, I have another question. Might be a stupid question, but I'm not sure. The music artists get bored of performing a show?
Oh, well, I mean, like, the thing is, one, there's no stupid questions, and two, we love touring and performing, like it's one of the most immediate ways to get feedback from what you're doing as an artist, and I think it's like everyone has that dream when they're starting out of like going and playing big shows and connecting with people, and like it's really touring is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the studio is also a lot of fun, but without both, it wouldn't be the same, you know? Too much time in the studio, you just want to get back on the road. Too much time on the road, you want to get it back in the studio. But they're both fun, and we love touring.
Yeah, I think like we don't ever really get bored. I think that we can get burnt out. Like last year we played so many shows. We were the busiest. I think we did like 115 shows or 120 shows or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the busiest year we've ever had. And it was we had basically almost no time in the studio, and it was just a bit too much. And it's not that we got bored of doing it, but we just
Get
got
tired, maybe.
a bit tired, yeah, a bit burnt out. And so I think that, you know, we were actually just talking about this yesterday, like the balance, finding the right balance of being able to go do lots of shows and have them be awesome, but also have time to work in the studio and keep your creative juices flowing
Mm-hmm.
is very important, because then it makes it so that, you know, you're excited for your shows and you're excited to be in the studio, and you get to sort of satiate both of those urges. And it's a lot better that way for us.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, guys. And
what's up, Punto Cinco? We're Bob Moses, and we can't wait to play in Tequila this weekend.
okay, well, thank you so much, Jimmy and Tom. It was really a pleasure. And well, we'll see you this Saturday at the Kamba.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Look forward to it.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.